Hi there, I am Monica Burns, and welcome to the new Easy EdTech podcast episode. As a former New York City public school teacher and current EdTech consultant, I started this podcast in 2019 to share my favorite classroom tech integration tips and stories from my experiences. Each episode offers practical ideas for you to try, share, or save for later. Be sure to check out classtechtips.com/podcast for today's show notes and resources. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or another favorite podcast app, you'll find the show notes link in the description too. This episode is sponsored by my new free ebook on ChatGPT. It's called 60 Plus Must-Try ChatGPT Prompts for Teachers, and it's full of ideas that will save you oodles of time. To grab the free ebook, go to classtechtips.com/chatgptbook. That's my website, classtechtips.com, and add a /chatgptbook. You can also find the link in the description of this episode or by tapping on the free stuff button on my website, classtechtips.com. Today's episode is all about summertime, or virtual field trips that I think are great for summer. Now, of course, you could use the content from today's episode really any time of year. There's lots of great virtual field trips out there, but I think that these have a great spin for summertime, whether you use them with students before the year officially finishes up, or maybe you even recommend them to families or send them out in a newsletter to keep everyone connected throughout the summertime. As a classroom teacher, I loved taking students on field trips. They were fantastic experiences for students, and teaching in New York City gave us lots of options of places to go. Just this spring, I was recounting the story of taking my fifth grade students to the Museum of Modern Art. It was a trip that feels like yesterday, even though it was almost a decade ago. I was chatting to someone who is a big fan of the museum about how wonderful the experience was taking my students there, how kind and helpful the museum docents were, and how it was such a memorable event for everyone. Now, there's lots of reasons to take students to visit different places, but we know that it's not possible to take them everywhere. That's where a summer virtual field trip might come into play. Although you can use the resources I've compiled on this list any time of year, I have taken a summer spin with these. They include spaces you might explore during the summertime to extend a lesson or activity from earlier in the school year. Or you might use these to help students prepare for the upcoming school year by helping them build background knowledge and vocabulary through a summertime virtual field trip. In today's episode, I'm excited to share these hand-picked list of websites for summer virtual field trips that you can also get into the hands of students and families over the summertime. These websites offer engaging and educational experiences that can truly transport students to different locations around the world. And of course, they might inspire you to take students to a faraway or nearby place for an actual field trip this school year or sometime in the future. From exploring some breathtaking national parks to the habitats of different animals, the ones I have for you on the list today include really endless opportunities for students. You can use them in so many different ways. Now, I'm going to mention each one of these as I go through the list, but know that, of course, you could Google them, right? Or find them with a quick internet search. If you go to the show notes of this episode, you can actually do that as you're listening. It'll still keep playing if you're playing on your phone and you click the link at the bottom. It'll take you out to a full list of the ones that I mentioned, so you can even share them all or just one or two of your favorites with those folks in your school community that you think would like to do a little summer virtual trip. First on our list of websites for summer virtual field trips is Google Arts and Culture. And if you have attended a workshop with me before, we might have taken a virtual field trip together using this favorite tool. I love sharing Google Arts and Culture. It has a vast collection of art, historical landmarks, and cultural experiences all throughout the world, but it is really great for interactive panoramas or walking around a space. So couldn't help but include this one on the list. There's lots of them to choose from going to a walk in the Grand Canyon to the top of the Eiffel Tower. The possibilities are really endless. Next up is the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. So if stepping into a museum is going to feel a little tough with your and your students' summer schedule, you can take a virtual tour of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. You can go on their website and discover permanent, current, and past exhibits. So even if something isn't being shown right now, you can access past exhibits from their website and do a tour around this space. Number 3 is Yellowstone National Park virtual tours. Now, for me, it's been a few years since I've smelled the sulfur at the geysers in Yellowstone, but you can explore this national park through interactive maps, panoramic images, and guided tours. So I'll link out to a special virtual tours page. So in addition, right, their website, and of course, lots of national parks do this too, has oodles of virtual resources to explore. And you can find that link where you're listening to this episode. We'll keep it going with another fantastic virtual field trip to the hidden worlds of national parks. So Yellowstone's fantastic. I love visiting national parks, and there are so many spots that just don't get as much attention. They're not the ones we put on our top 10 lists, perhaps, of most popular parks, but you can visit some of the lesser known U.S. national parks through interactive multimedia tours, also hosted by Google Arts and Culture. Instead of doing the search bar at the top of their page, which you can do, I've included a link to a website where it really takes you through a special experience of exploring lesser known or hidden worlds, is what they call it, of different national parks. So let's get out of the US for a moment. Next up is a tour of the world's largest cave, Vietnam Son Doong Cave. And National Geographic is a fantastic resource, of course, for students who want to explore different places. So you can tour with students the world's largest cave in Vietnam, and you can go on this immersive virtual tour with National Geographic. Their website will take you through this space. Definitely a neat one if you're looking at different science concepts or geographic landforms, right? You could do a whole bunch with this particular one. Number 6 takes us back inside with the Louvre virtual tours. So the iconic Louvre Museum in Paris has a vast collection of art and artifacts, and it may be something that you want to explore from home if you can't make it to Paris this summer. They have a website with both an English and French options to explore. So even if you are not in a French class with students, you can still share this website in the English version for them to take a look at. Now, the British Museum has a virtual tour too, so you may want to head over to the British Museum's website. They have an extensive collection covering all different parts of human history, art, and cultures from around the world. And if you're having in conversations with students about how museums find different artifacts or what is happening now as different places are reclaiming artifacts that were lifted or stolen from their original land, this might be one that's come up in conversation, and you may want to look at this virtual tour and have conversations with students about the role of museums and where we find artifacts and maybe where artifacts are being returned back to original locations. Now, another option for a virtual field trip, this one is going to take you outside, even if you're looking at it from inside, is street art cities. To see art outside of a traditional museum, you might want to explore street art cities. If you follow along with me on Instagram, you might already know that I've lived in Jersey City, New Jersey for almost 7 years. And it may be just about 7 years when you're listening to this episode by the time it goes live. Now, in Jersey City, where I live, there are murals everywhere. And this interactive map features beautiful murals and graffiti from different spots in the world. So if you're talking about street art or looking for art that could spark creative writing experiences this summer with students, it's an awesome option. Next up for us is the San Diego Zoo Kids page. Although I've taken groups of students to the Central Park Zoo, that's another very memorable field trip with me and a group of fifth graders. There's lots of virtual tours for students interested in animals. They can learn about wildlife and conservation efforts through live animal cams, through videos and interactive activities, all straight from the San Diego Zoo's website. Now, I've been to the San Diego Zoo in person too. It is a fantastic spot if you get to go there with a group of kids. But if that's not an option, definitely check out their website. Another California spot with a great website for summer virtual field trips and plenty of animal cams is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. You and your students can explore underwater creatures with live cameras, showcasing various ocean habitats. It's another great one for doing compare and contrast activities or building vocabulary and background knowledge with a group of students. Definitely recommend checking it out. Now we're getting towards the end of our list. We're not quite there yet, but I've got one more for you. That is explore.org. They have live nature cams. So if you love that idea of a live view of different places, you can explore different animal habitats and share those with students. So they have live nature cams where you can look at wildlife in their natural habitats, from African wildlife to bird sanctuaries and ocean life. There are just so many to explore. So with lots of unique destinations, lots of fun, different options at your fingertips, I can't wait to hear which ones jump out with you or which ones you might want to add to the list. If you have a favorite that I didn't mention today that you think belongs on a list of virtual field trips for summertime or any time of year, make sure to send me a note. If you're on my email list, you can reply to my weekly newsletter and let me know. Or if you follow along with me on Instagram or Twitter, it's just at Class Tech Tips. You can send me a message there with your favorite. That way I can make sure to give it a shout out when I'm sharing more of these in the future. So let's make this EdTech easy with a few key points from the episode. Field trips are great for any time of year. You can choose a place that helps build background knowledge as well as gives kids an opportunity to explore a high interest area that extends a lesson from the school year. Get links like these in the hands of families who may want to explore with their children during the summertime. Remember, you can find the show notes and the full list of resources from this episode at classtechtips.com/podcast and searching for our summer virtual field trips episode. This episode is sponsored by my new free ebook on ChatGPT. It's called 60 Plus Must Try ChatGPT Prompts for Teachers, and it's full of ideas that will save you oodles of time. To grab the free ebook, go to classtechtips.com/ChatGPT book. That's my website, classtechtips.com, and add a /ChatGPT book. You can also find the link in the description of this episode or by tapping on the free stuff button on my website, classtechtips.com. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday edition of the Easy EdTech podcast. Remember to hit follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite app to have next week's episode ready for you on Tuesday morning. Feel free to share takeaways from this episode with friends or colleagues in a quick email or text, or even on social media. And don't hesitate to tag me at Class Tech Tips if you have any questions.